Hello and welcome to our program. Most of the problems that ail us today either stem from physical disease, mental disharmony, or spiritual ignorance. So how do we actually control these three areas of our life and learn to live a better quality life? Let us learn a little more about all this. Please welcome on our show today Swami Smarananandji, who is from the Yogoda Satsang Society. Swamiji, welcome to the program. Yoga, when we talk about it, is actually in the layperson's mind more of a physical, I think a regime or a discipline, but yoga is much more. Your society has done pioneering work in helping us understand the yoga link between the body, mind and the soul. Please throw some light on that.
For a common man, yoga means yogasanas, a set of postures. Definitely these postures are of great help in maintaining good body, physique, health and even mental poise. But meditation goes something deeper. It cures all the problems that arise from body, mind and that little soul. Paramahansa Yoganandaji is a pioneer in spreading the message of yoga, especially in the West. He is the first Indian to stay for an extended period for about 30 years in the United States,
Right.
and spread the message of yoga.
Right.
He is known as father of modern yoga in America.
In fact, Kriya Yoga, which is so popular and has benefited actually millions of people across, is also very deeply scientific, because the whole basis of yoga is not only spirituality, but spirituality and science, and where they meet together.
Exactly. A yogi engages himself in a definite step-by-step procedure by which the body and mind are disciplined and the soul gradually liberated. More important, taking nothing for granted on emotional grounds or by faith, a yogi practices a thoroughly tested series of exercises that were first mapped out by the ancient rishis. In every age of India, yoga produced men who became truly free, liberated souls.
Right.
Yoga is an ancient science, especially Kriya Yoga, taught by Yogoda Satsang Society.
Right.
Yoga is a method for restraining the natural turbulence of thoughts, which otherwise impartially prevents all men of all lands from glimpsing their true nature of spirit. Like the healing light of the sun, yoga is beneficial equally to men of the East and to the men of the West.
Right.
The thoughts of the most persons are restless and capricious. A manifest need exists for yoga, the science of mind control.
Wonderful. In fact, Swamiji, when we talk of disharmony, what really brings about disharmony, this movement from the core area of harmony?
Yes, unless there is a balanced living, wherein a man has to develop the body, mind and soul, there is going to be an imbalance, disharmony among his thoughts, his actions, and some of them manifest in outer activities too, disturbing the nature. See, man has a body, so I have this body.
Right.
Everyone accepts that. I have a responsibility to take care of this body by right diet, right exercise, etc. In turn, body gives me good health and mobility. So I have a responsibility to the body, and body gives me some benefits. But that's not all. I have a mind too. I have to cultivate my mind too by positive thinking, intellectual pursuits.
Okay.
If I do that, mind in turn gives me intelligence and the ability to get along with others. So I have a responsibility to body, mind, and it gives me something back if I take care of it.
Right.
Many people stop here. They take care of their bodies, they take care of their minds, but we have another faculty, soul too. We shouldn't ignore. We have to nourish the soul too. And what is the food for the soul? Meditation, deep contemplation. When I nourish the soul, in turn soul gives me something, intuition, creativity, perfect love,
Okay.
unconditional joy. For instance, intuition is not coming from my mind, it is coming from soul. So, I have to nourish my soul in order to develop that intuition. In order to feel that unconditional joy, I have to cultivate my soul. And if I do not do that, there is imbalance, there is disharmony in my own life, and that expresses in my conduct in the world, disturbing the harmony in the nature also.
Okay.
And yoga is the solution. The yogi develops all his faculties, body, mind and soul, in a harmonious way.
Okay, right. So, when we talk of the nature of thought, I think mind is constantly playing with thought. The nature of thought, is it disruptive or taking you away from your center? Why can't the nature of thought be calming?
The very effective method of having control over thoughts is practice of meditation, yoga meditation. If we do that, thoughts come under control.
Okay.
Suppose I want to meditate here on something deeper. I sit in meditation, but suddenly I hear some noise, AC noise I hear, air conditioner noise. So, I may be contemplating on God here, but similarly immediately my ear brings that air conditioner's noise and thinks that, oh, I have to fix my AC in my house, it is giving some problem. But I continue with my meditation. Then next thought comes, no, last time the mechanic did not do a good job. Again I continue, but the thought is going here. But now let me go to some other mechanic shop, but tomorrow it seems to be a bandh, and once it bandh means I can go to politics and here and there and there etc. See, I am here trying to think something divine, but one thought from AC has triggered a train of thoughts and took me away from my point of concentration. Which is the culprit? Is the AC?
No.
If AC is not there, maybe a vehicle going nearby horn, that would disturb me and take me anywhere else, or a bird chirping may take me to a zoo and from there to somewhere else. The culprit is my ear, sense. This is the one which brought the information, and that triggered a memory thought and previous memory thought, and completely I went in a wrong direction, leaving the meditation I am doing.
Okay.
So, I have to control my ear. How do I control my ear? I will give an example.
Yes.
You drop an immersion heater in a bucket of water to heat the water. After some time it is steaming. So, I do not need any more heat. Then how do I stop heating? Do I go and put a cloth around the immersion heater? No. I simply
Switch it off.
Switch off the electric current,
Right.
which energizes this immersion heater. Similarly, putting any amount of cotton in my ear is not going to switch off my hearing faculty. So, my skin brings cold and warm sensations. How do I switch off this? Key is to switch off the life force. Scientifically switch off the life force which is energizing my ear.
So, the source.
Yeah. The life force is energizing my ear. Like current is energizing the immersion heater, life force is energizing prana shakti, that is energizing my ear and skin and eyes and nose, all senses. I have to switch off. Next question is,
how do you do that?
Is it possible?
You're right.
It is possible. In sleep, you do not listen to sounds. Depending on the depth of sleep, even louder sounds you are not deaf.
True.
But temporarily the life force is switched off.
And you're still alive.
You are alive,
Yes.
very much.
And you're breathing.
Breathing.
Right.
And suppose a mosquito lands on your toe, you may not notice it. That sense of touch is gone temporarily.
Right.
That means life force is withdrawn from the senses, skin, ears, eyes, nose, they are withdrawn in sleep. So, it is possible.
It's possible.
So, that is unconscious.
Okay.
So, meditation if you do, a scientific meditation will systematically withdraw the life force from the senses, and senses are subdued. So, outer world, I communicate with the outer world through my senses. The senses are cut off temporarily, I am free from outer disturbances.
Okay.
I am inside. When things of outer world do not enter, my thoughts do not contemplate on outer objects.
Right.
I mean, that is the best way of having control over thoughts, by withdrawing the senses.
Right. So, Swamiji, tell me, and then they say, so is meditation thoughtfulness, thoughtlessness? Is it the emptying of thought? Is it the focus? Because some, you talk of mindfulness, in the now, mindlessness. How does one come to terms with these terms?
Okay. So, when outer stimuli is not there, because I subdued my senses, so the senses do not bring any information from outside world. So, I am inside.
Right.
I am inside. When I am inside, where are you? Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmas means, Aham means I, Brahman, I am Brahman, I am God. This is not my statement, this is fundamental truth declared by all scriptures of all religions. One religion may say Aham Brahmasmi, some other religion may say you are made in the image of God. Yet another religion would say we are all different expressions of the same divinity, or you are son of God. Whatever it is, all mean one thing. There is a spark of divinity within me. So, when I do not have external objects, imagine a state where my thoughts are absent, emotions are absent, anxieties are not there, ears are silent, eyes are silent, nose is silent. Where I am? My true self. If I am not sleeping, my mind is active, consciousness is alive, I feel that divinity within me. That's me. That's me. And meditation is a procedure which takes me to that state.
Okay.
To that state. So, meditation is the one which it's not fighting with thoughts, trying to put them off. It is pranayam. Pranayam means prana yama, life force control. I control the flow of life force. Normally, life force enters the body through medulla and goes down the spine, and at each chakra it goes outwards with the body parts, downwards and outwards. In meditation, I try to reverse. It is inwards and upwards. When I reverse, the senses, instead of being fed by life force, they are being switched off systematically in meditation. When that happens, when that happens, there are no disturbing thoughts. I go to a state where thoughts are not there, emotions are not there, anxieties are not there, sensations are not there, but my mind is active, consciousness is alive. There I experience that stillness within. That is God. That is my real self. Right. That is why it is said that it is not in doing, in being we experience divinity within. Okay. It is not in action, but in awareness we perceive that divinity within, and it is possible through yoga, meditation.
Right. So, that means, Swamiji, when we are sleeping, we are not aware, but the prana is switched off. But in meditation, you are aware and the prana is switched off. The yes. awareness is the difference between sleep and meditation?
Yeah, in a way, loosely we can say that meditation is conscious sleep.
Okay.
We get part of the benefit of sleep, but consciously. In sleep, mind is not in our control. So, we cannot use the freedom from senses because mind is not in our control, but in meditation mind is in our control. So, we can put it on something higher, that existence of God and presence of God, we can feel, experience that. Right. Meditation is eventually its experience.
Okay. And because you said that how you change the flow, and because the flow then becomes upwards, is that the reason why we move towards a higher consciousness?
Yes.
So, there is life energy around. Is there consciousness around us?
Consciousness is where it is, it's a aggregate of all my chitta, feeling, ego, reason, intellect. It's an aggregate of all these things result in consciousness. So, I am conscious. I am conscious of that divinity within. The whole purpose of meditation is to get to that expand the consciousness. Generally, see, my consciousness is spread over this body, but in meditation we expand the consciousness. It goes beyond the body. It is beyond the body, more and more and more. Whatever is happening all around us, we should be able to be conscious. That is the expansion of consciousness. Meditation can be defined one way, that way. expansion of consciousness.
Can one be in a constant state of meditation?
There are two ways to define. Meditation technique means a procedure you have to follow to get to a state of inner stillness. That is done when you sit at some point and do your meditation. And that benefit of that can be carried on into our activities. So, we are in meditative state, enjoying the benefits of meditation we have done in the morning. So, yes, we do not have to be sitting all the time in meditation posture to enjoy the state of meditation. We can enjoy it even afterwards. That in fact, we advocate devotees to meditate twice a day, morning and evening, and carry on the benefits of meditation throughout the day.
In fact, you talk of being actively calm and calmly active. Tell us a bit more about this.
It is possible by following the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda ji, who is the founder of our society, Yogadasa Singh Society of India.
Right.
One can be calmly active and actively calm. It is possible that I can be active, but calmly inside. At the same time, I can be very calm, but active. It is not the calmness I enjoy in sleep. I am inactive there, but I am calm, but actually my mind is functioning on a higher level. My consciousness is getting expanded on a higher level. So, that is what is meant by actively calm. And just now I told that it is possible to switch off we try to switch off. How do we switch off? I mean, I would like to explain.
Wonderful.
One should know that it happens scientifically.
Okay.
See, meditation does not depend on any dogma or belief like any other religious ritual. Meditation is very scientific, in the sense that 3 plus 4 is 7 for an Indian, American, Australian, Christian, Hindu, Muslim, man or woman. Is not it so? Mathematical. Similarly, meditation works on the principle of life force, which is same. If meditation worked for Arjuna and Bhagavan Krishna 5000 years ago, and it worked for Jesus Christ and others 2000 years ago, it worked for many saints 300 years ago, it must work for me, it must work for you. Because here it does not depend on any imagination or belief, it depends on life force principle. I will explain this.
Okay.
Scientifically, we know that by switching off the life force that is energizing the body, I am free from external disturbances, I can go within. But how do I switch off the life force? Only in sleep I do unconsciously, which is of no use to me really. See, the cosmic energy is prevalent throughout the universe.
Right.
It enters a human body through medulla, and through medulla it goes inside, and the entire body parts, all body parts receive the life force and are energized. So, if I switch off the flow of life force here at medulla, I can switch off the senses, but I do not have a switch here. But God has provided, the nature has provided a secondary switch at heart. What is the function of heart? It pumps purified blood to all body parts.
Right.
Well, blood is circulated to all body parts, the life force gets circulated. So, if I want to switch off the senses, I have to switch off the life force. I have to switch off the blood circulation.
So, that is why the heartbeat needs to be slowed down.
But how do if I switch off my heart, then senses do not receive life force, and then I am free from disturbances, but that is not the situation I want.
Right.
But you have to understand why the heart has to circulate the blood. It is because of impure blood. Venous blood is there, that impure blood, as long as there is impure blood, that impure blood has to be pumped into the lungs by heart, and through the nostrils I take oxygen, and the blood is purified, and the heart pumps back all the purified blood back into the body parts, and when blood is being circulated, then life force also gets circulated. So, if I want to switch off this circulation of blood, I have to make sure that there is no impure blood in the body. To the extent it is reduced, impurities are reduced, to that extent heart takes rest. Then next question is, why there are impurities in the body? because body is composed of millions and millions of cells. Each cell has an independent existence. It is born, it lives for some time and decays. When a cell decays, it produces carbon. That carbon by some process of osmosis goes into blood, turning it to impure
venous blood.
venous blood,
Okay.
and that is the blood which needs to be purified. So, meditation is a process which tries to reduce or arrest the decay of cells. When the decay of bodily cells is reduced, to that extent there is less carbon, to that extent there is less venous blood, and to that extent heart takes rest. It does not have to pump, there is no blood, impure blood to pump.
Okay.
So, that is how. So, meditation when I do, what happens is, because this biological process I use in meditation, it reduces the cell decay, giving rest to heart, reducing the blood circulation, and then giving me freedom from sense disturbances. And there are some special meditation techniques wherein we take excess oxygen through a special breathing.
Okay.
This excess oxygen directly decarbonizes the system, reducing the impurities. That way also heart takes rest, because it does not have to pump so much impure blood. And once blood circulation is not there, senses are quiet. When senses are quiet, I am inside, I can really enjoy, I mean, that is why it is scientific, because the principle of life force is same for you and for me, for Bhagavan Krishna, Jesus Christ, or Kabir, Paramahansa Yogananda ji, or whomever, anyone, anytime, he is using the same principle. That is what meditation uses. So, it is so scientific.
And what a beautifully unifying thought to say that the same life force which existed in the yogis, in the avatars, whoever, is also through us.
Yes.
And that's so unifying and connecting to the divine within. Swamiji, when we talk of the body, we just spoke of toxins in the body. So, one is the cells which come into life and degenerate, and carbon is produced. But our thoughts and our emotions also produce toxins in our body?
When there is harmony in mind and in heart, these negative emotions take a back seat.
Okay.
When these negative emotions like fear, anxiety take a back seat and toxins are not produced, you know what Taittiriya Upanishad says, from joy we have come, for joy we live, in that sacred joy one day we shall melt again. Beautiful. In a world of duality where we see so much pain and suffering, such a statement may sound unrealistic, isn't it so? Is it possible that I have come from joy, for joy I live, in that sacred joy one day I shall melt again? But we cannot take the words of an Upanishad lightly. We may not fully grasp the import of such a statement at this level, but if only we practice the methods well mapped out by ancient rishis, one day we will watch for such a statement. Even Bhagavan Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, Swalpa mafasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat, meaning even a little practice of this religious rite will save you from dire fears. So, what you are talking about, fear, anxiety, they can be conquered by practice of this yoga meditation. Bhagavan Krishna did not say that if you practice yoga meditation, religious rite, you will be saved from troubles and problems, but the anxieties that come, the fears that come, the anxieties, they can be conquered by practice of yoga meditation. So, we have that assurance of great prophets that if we practice yoga meditation, we can live a life based on peace within. So, we are actively calm and calmly active. I have problems, financial problem, professional problem, family problem, relationship problem, that problem, social problem, this problem. I have all these problems. Trying to solve this is all right. Temporarily financial problem is removed. Next comes relationship problem, next comes professional problem. They come again
Right.
They come again. If
Right.
one is gone, something else come.
Right.
How is that? Because the real cause of these problems has not been removed. We are only trying to get temporary relief, symptomatic relief. What is the real problem which is causing these external problems? That is
Lies in the self.
ignorance, ajnan, ignorance of divinity. Unless I remove this ignorance of my divinity, my contact, my relationship with God, until then there is no real
Right.
cure. And these tensions and anxieties and fears, jealousies, all are going to be there until the source of that, the
Right.
ignorance, that is removed.
Right.
The main thing is the connection with God. Okay. Next question is this: what is God? That there are many definitions of God, many descriptions of God. Books have been written, lectures were spoken. All are right in their own right.
Okay.
But for me, personally, the definition of God which is closest to my heart is this: God is Satchidanand. But I must explain. Satchidanand is a word we have been hearing from childhood. We name our children Satchidanand.
Right.
But did we ever stop and contemplate the meaning of the word Satchidanand? Let me explain that. God, we don't know any idea of God at this stage, but whether God is he or she or it, whatever it is, if there is an entity like God, can that God be sorrowful? Even if we don't know much about it, we are not making a mistake by thinking that God is joy. God cannot be sorrowful, God is joy. But to say God is joy, God is Anand, is a gross understatement. God is not simple Anand. For instance, if I take a mango, it gives me joy. A second mango gives me further joy. Third mango may not give me the same happiness anymore, isn't it so? Fourth, I don't want to take. Fifth mango, I may hit the person who gives me. Because the theory of diminishing
Marginal utility.
returns, marginal utility. This is applicable not only to mangoes and other sweets, it is applicable to all items, all experiences in this world. There is an experience which you like once, twice, thrice, later slowly it loses its charm.
Right. The sad part, it also happens to relationships, which is the sad part in our lives. Okay.
It happens to everything in this world except to God and God contact. God contact is ever new. That is why God is not simple joy, He is ever new joy. God is Nitya Naveenanand. Nitya Naveenanand. Okay, God may be ever new joy, but what good it is if God is not aware of His joy. God is very much conscious. He is ever conscious of His ever new joy. Consciousness means what? Chit. God is Chidanand, ever conscious, ever new joy. Okay, God may be ever new joy, He may be ever conscious of His ever new joy, but what good it is if it exists for a little while and then gone. That is for you and for me, because we think of things between birth and death. Whatever happens here we relate to, but God is, and God was, and God will be. That means God is ever existing. What is ever existing? Truth. God is truth, ever existing truth, that is Sat. God is Sat, Chit, Anand, ever existing, ever conscious, ever new joy. But I do not stop here. Whenever I describe God, my definition of God goes a little further. The full definition is this: God is Satchidanand and Aham Brahmasmi. That is my full definition. Aham Brahmasmi means Aham, I am God, I am Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi again is not my statement, it is a fundamental truth declared by all religions. I am potentially ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. That is what I am. When I am that, how can I be perpetually in anxiety or fear or jealousy or this and that, anger, all this will go, because that is not my, they are put on. Now temporarily they are here.
Right.
I can definitely wash them, because that is not me, that is this.
Right.
Ever new joy is my real nature. That is why that Upanishad says that from joy we have come, for joy we live, in that sacred joy one day we shall meet again, because I am
That's the nature of the being in true consciousness.
true consciousness.
Absolutely.
I would like to explain this type of joy. The joy is not something unknown to you, unknown to me. We are joyful. When we hear some good news, we are joyful. When we take some nice food, we are joyful.
So, is that joy or happiness, Swamiji?
It is something different. See, the joy of God contact in meditation is different. To put it simply, I would say it has got 3 shades. Physiological. Suppose when I take a sweet, I do not have to tell me to be happy, because the very act of taking sweet, taste buds gets excited,
Right.
and something happens here. I do not have to make an effort so that I am happy.
Right.
It is similarly when you meditate, there is physiological changes in mind, in physiological in the body, and we are happy. Body feels light, eyes, this, that. The joy of God contact is physiological.
Right.
It also has psychological component. In the sense, for me to be happy, I do not have to take a sweet necessarily. If I hear some good news, something happened to my family, to my country, to my this, to my that, something somewhere happened good immediately, but psychologically nothing happened. Same thing. When you meditate, after a deep meditation, one feels, yes, all is well,
Right.
fine. You feel assured. That inner assurance comes,
And the body responds also by secreting those hormones.
Yes,
Absolutely, within the body.
Definitely. So that it is not psychological, and then it has got spiritual shade also. This is most important for me. To explain this, let me quote one quotation of Paramahansa Yogananda ji. He is the guru whom I follow.
Ji.
He said, when that bliss comes over you, you recognize it as a conscious, intelligent, universal being to whom you may appeal, and not as an abstract mental concept. Mark his words. When he says that when that joy comes over you in meditation, you recognize that joy as a conscious, intelligent, universal being to whom you may appeal. It does not mean that when you meditate, you see someone there sitting on a throne with 4 heads and 8 hands, etc. If someone says it is okay, I have no issue with that, but not necessarily. It just comes with a sense of higher presence. Meditation, if you do, it is a higher presence, yes, without seeing, without listening, hearing any sound, you know that yes, some higher presence is there, some higher presence. I mean, that is a spiritual aspect in meditation.
Right.
You are convinced to your core, then you know that yes, aham brahmasmi, I am part of Satchidanand.
Swamiji, earlier we spoke about ignorance from the self, of the self. Do I know myself? But the challenge is that we all grow up trying to understand who we are from what others think of who we are.
Yes.
It's external validation that we look for.
Okay.
Where do we get to really know who am I?
Meditation again, yoga meditation, it is so important. Yoga meditation is a cure for all the maladies, as you started in the beginning, physical disease, mental inharmonies, and spiritual ignorance. Recognizing value of meditation, United Nations declared June 21st as International Day of Yoga, thanks to our Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi, who was instrumental in doing so. And now the entire world is going to recognize, if he has not already done so, the importance of yoga in one's life. It not only uplifts individuals, it uplifts the society itself.
Right, because you become a collective of conscious beings.
Yes.
Right. Swamiji, what is fear and how does it begin in us?
Why so many maladies, so much of negative feelings inside? Why we are not able to be happy? I will quote a short analogy. This is a grandmother story.
Okay.
Grandmother was doing some stitching, embroidery she was doing. While doing so, by mistake she dropped the needle needle fell. Then she started searching for the needle. She couldn't locate it because light wasn't there.
Okay.
There wasn't enough light, she couldn't locate. Someone asked, what are you doing? I am searching for the needle. But you should search in light. Then promptly grandmother went outside the house and started searching for the needle under a street light. Then someone asked, what are you doing? Searching for the needle. Where did you lose it? Inside. Then why are you searching outside? Because there is no light inside. It is not. See, we may have a hearty laugh at grandmother, but are we not doing the same thing?
Absolutely.
Where is joy? Aham Brahmasmi Sachidanand. That is inside. I am that. But where am I searching with joy for me? In that position. If only I get that position, I will be happy. In that possession, in that relationship, in that achievement, in there, out there, all the time, from boyhood, all the way even after retirement, outside we are searching, outside. Where we can find that? Inside. Inside. So, that is why all this emptiness, because we will never be able to find the needle out in the street. There may be much light there, because very lot of bright spots are there outside myself. So, I go there, but bring the light inside, bring the light, go within, antarmukhi, look within. Meditation is one which takes you to interior life, that is known as interiorization, pratyahara.
Right.
That is the fifth step in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. You must have heard about Patanjali Ashtanga Maga Yoga. The steps are Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahara, followed by Dharan, Dhyan, Samadhi. Pratyahara is that interiorization, antarmukhi. I go inside, and when I go inside, I cannot but contact God as love, as joy, which is the solution for the problems we are facing.
Right. Swamiji, you made personal choices in life, and I want to talk a little bit about you, because I think how we as human beings make choices for what we want to do, what we want to be, and how we want to remove this veil of ignorance. You were an engineer. You had a choice between joining President Abdul Kalam's missile program or becoming a sannyasi, and you chose the latter.
Yes, in a way. Are you interested in knowing how it happened?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, it all happened when I was doing research at IIT Kharagpur. I was working for my PhD. Then I approached Swami in YSS and asked, I want to learn meditation, please teach me. They immediately put a question, why do you want meditation? See, meditation improves my concentration, which is useful for my research. So, I want to learn meditation to improve my concentration. I was very clear, meditation I wanted to start only for sake of concentration, not for God. Okay. God was not there in the equation at all. But God, I had faith in God at that time, definitely, as anyone else. Having born in this country, everyone has born with that concept of God. But God is there for festivals, special food, special functions, special program in the house, gatherings, this, that, etc. I enjoy. God is there for festivals. God is there for children before going to exams.
Okay. God
is there for elderly before going to hospitals. I mean, that is the role I gave to God. But meditating for God, that wasn't my thoughts. But I want meditation to improve my concentration. Then Swamiji said that, fine, then you have to meditate 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening regularly. 20 minutes, that is fine, I can very easily give. But if I knew that pretty soon I was going to spend longer than 20 minutes in meditation, I would have never started meditation in this life. 20 minutes is okay. I was so busy with my activity, with my research work. Fine, 20 minutes. Then I started meditating. I learned the first meditation technique taught by Yoga Satsang Society of India, Hangsa technique. I started practicing that. Generally, I am focused in life. If I take up something, I do it with all my
okay.
willpower and interest and everything. I put all my energies there. Sincerely, I was doing 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. Then pretty soon, by His grace, I was convinced by personal experience of the existence of inner joy and the possibility of contacting that joy on a regular basis. So, I was doing with more enthusiasm very regularly.
You
Then
found your nourishment and your
yes,
reservoir.
and that 20 minutes has become 30 minutes, have become 40 minutes, have become by that 1 hour. It's on its own, self-propelling, and its experience, and that is a beauty. One of our main aims and ideals of our organization is to disseminate among nations a definite, the knowledge of definite scientific techniques for attaining direct personal experience of God.
Okay.
Anyone who practices meditation will have his own personal experience, as I had that joy. Then I was comparing what I would do. Still, I worked in this world for about 6 years, even after.
So, did the way you work change?
Yes, I was more peaceful, less anxious, more productive, all the time looking for work. The
Okay.
enthusiasm was there, because I would, it's like charging the body in the morning, go to work, come back and recharge the body again with meditation. There was enthusiasm. I never neglected my duties. I will just give an example.
Right.
This is very interesting in the sense, when we finish our PhD thesis work, we have to face Viva voce exam. And in Kharagpur IIT, one of my friends was taking PhD Viva voce examination. I was there. We were all waiting for the external examiner. The external examiner was Professor B. Nag from Delhi.
Okay.
He is the one who built the first computer in India.
Right.
He came. As soon as he came, we were all just waiting in the seminar hall. He asked our head of the department, where is the candidate? Then interviewed, he is the candidate. As soon as the candidate was there, Professor B. Nag, external examiner, he stepped back like this. He said, you appear so relaxed, as if exam is already over. Can you imagine the external examiner giving this comment, rather compliment? Otherwise, exam means what? Tap, 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 heart beating.
Heart beating and 3-4 lines on the forehead
So
also.
but
Okay.
don't you want to be that way? That person said, what is there? I prepared for my Viva voce, and I am here to present my case and defend my thesis, and what is there to be worried? Don't you want to be that?
So, you are involved yet detached.
Yes.
You know, so that's the beautiful
Actually, we are
combination.
doing our
Active.
work. So,
Right.
our efficiency increases. Efficiency increases.
And you found these changes in yourself.
Yes.
Okay. So, Swamiji, so now talk to us at an individual level as a person. How does one realize that we are operating from a higher consciousness and not from a lower? So, what are our actions? Do they change? Because sometimes, you know, we wonder, am I being right, fair, wrong? Am I being a good person, not? How do we know we are operating from a state of higher consciousness?
Very good. See, normally our decisions are guided by our likes and dislikes, isn't it so? I want to do this, I want to take decision because I like it. Generally, likes and dislikes guide
us.
influence our decisions. But the correct decision comes through our intuition. Intuition is beyond likes and dislikes. It can see things, it can foresee things, and if we are meditating, we become more and more intuitive in our daily life. So, we will take better decisions, not because we like it or we don't like it, that from better platform. That calmness, joy, they have the fertile fields for meditation, for intuition to.
Okay.
In fact, I can share with you a quotation of Paramahansa Yogananda ji.
Please.
A true yogi may remain dutiful in the world. There he is like butter and water, and not like the unchurned, easily diluted milk of undisciplined humanity. Fulfilling one's earthly responsibilities need not separate man from God, provided he maintains mental uninvolvement with egotistical desires and plays his part in life as a willing instrument of the divine.
Beautiful. That means, Swamiji, the decisions we take from a deep sense of intuition don't only keep us in mind, they keep the larger universe and the larger consciousness in mind.
Exactly.
So, we take more sensitive decisions.
Yes, exactly.
How do we actually start this beautiful beginning so that a virtuous cycle then starts? Because you started with 20 minutes and now it's your life.
Sharing the knowledge of ancient techniques of meditation with anyone, whoever is interested.
Okay.
We have a very unique system. One doesn't have to go to the ashram to learn. Paramahansa Yogananda ji, before he left his body, he compiled his teachings in the form of lessons.
Okay.
These lessons are mailed to whoever is interested.
Okay.
These lessons contain the information on how to meditate. It's not just the philosophy of meditation, but practical tips how to sit, spine straight, gaze upwards, where to keep the hands, where to keep the focus, where to put the mind. Step by step, step A, B, C, everything is explained. And one can receive the lessons, read at leisurely at his own or her own home and practice. There are no fixed timings he has to practice, but we generally advise them each one to practice twice a day.
Okay.
So, anyone interested in Kriya Yoga may write to us.
Okay.
Yoga Satsang Society of India, Ranchi, Jharkhand. We will send the lessons by post.
Okay.
They can read and practice. If anyone has a question, they can ask us on phone or letter, or we keep traveling various centers to clarify the doubts, giving lectures. Or they can come to our ashrams. We have 4 ashrams in India. One is at Ranchi, Dakshineshwar, Calcutta,
Okay.
Noida, and then Dwarhad near Raniket in Himalayas.
Okay.
One can go to any of these ashrams also personally learn.
So that means the ground is prepared. Inner journey is waiting for all of us, easily accessible. Thank you so much, Swamiji, for sharing so much and actually helping us throw some light and find the needle in the right place, which is right in our hearts. Right. Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Thank you too. God bless you.